Welcome to Unit 3 of the third module, dedicated to the role of local community. Engaging and coordinating local community is becoming progressively important when planning a territory or, in our case, a tourist destination. In this unit, we are trying to answer to the question, what is the role of local community in the development and enhancement of a destination? To answer this question, we are going to explore the following topics: the collaborative approach in sustainable tourism, the role of local community in planning a destination, and we will also see a case study on a peripheral area, which is San Pellegrino in Alpe, in Tuscany. Here, the involvement of local community is fostered and supported by a community manager. Now, when talking about sustainability, we must mention the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals, as created by the United Nations, of course. These 17 goals were developed with a better and more sustainable future in mind, and to do so, human health and also the respect and care for our planet must go hand in hand. Tourism has the potential to contribute to all of these 17 goals, some of them more specifically, since it is a system that includes many elements, from the visitors to the cultural and natural resources of a territory. That's why it is so important for it to include sustainability as an aim. So what does it mean to think about tourism as something sustainable? Well, the World Tourism Organization has provided us with a definition. Sustainable tourism takes full account of its current and future economic, social, and environmental impacts, especially addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, the environment, and also of host community. So we can really see how the topic of impacts is important, but also that of stakeholders, which are those connected in some way to the tourist destination, maybe the visitors or the host communities. So how can we obtain this form of tourism? How can we make sure that all of these different elements that compose a tourist destination can work together to get the best and the most sustainable version of a tourist destination offer? As previously mentioned, an important element in the composition of a tourist destination is the local community. But what do we mean actually by local community? Well, local communities are usually composed by residents of a specific area who might have various degrees of connection in the tourism field. Their involvement in tourism development is important to ensure a fair and effective way of managing the destination resources. So to sum up, local communities and their involvement are an integral part of the sustainable development of a tourist destination. As previously mentioned, in this module, we are going to clarify how to involve the local community in the planning of a sustainable tourism destination. I want to start by giving reasons so as to why this participatory approach is important and what are the possible positive outcomes that come out of it. First of all, locals have the decision-making power, but also the quality of these decisions is greatly improved, especially if we compare it to other methods. But also new ideas about the destination can be more easily developed this way. And also trust gradually increases among the stakeholders, but also towards, of course, the community manager itself. And the responsibility in this way is shared among the stakeholders, and also conflict and antagonism are greatly reduced. That being said, we can all move on to the ways in which this participatory approach can be implemented on ground. These you can see are the two main strategies in which the decisions regarding tourist destination are usually presented to the local community. We can see on the left the top-down approach, which is the one that has a sort of national, regional or local administration or entity that develops the guidelines and projects regarding our destination and usually presents it only later to those who actually live and work in the destination. This top-down approach is, of course, has its pros and cons. The cons are the fact that, for example, local communities become part of a tourism product and that they are expected to conform to this image of the destination. The pros are the fact that it allows as a method for a national or regional strategy to exist, one that has every tourism stakeholder to be able to allow a general guideline to achieve shared goals. And generally, it is also perceived as more efficient. Now, of course, we can understand how this strategy doesn't take into account the ideas, the needs, and the opinions of local stakeholders. So in this sense, a bottom-up approach that we can see on the right of the slide could be better. Your locals work together as a group, following the same goals and having the best interests of the destination at heart. There are cons and pros as well. This approach implies a larger investment of time, of money and manpower. And additionally, the results usually often can be seen in a short-term period. And finally, I'd say that all of the activities must be, of course, monitored and analyzed during and after the community involvement process. There are, of course, many pros. For example, the professional community manager can help locals in making their own plans, but also setting their own goals and making choices about the resources of the destination. Of course, it is a process that initiates a dialogue about many things, such as local traditions, for example. So at this point, the question is, are there any specific ways or methods in which a community of people can be involved in the development of a tourist destination? The theme of public participation really is a theme that has been studied in many fields, not just tourism, and many have been the methods and processes developed. It is difficult to choose just one, since, as always, the best answer really depends on the problem. But I'd say that an interesting method might be the one of the spectrum of public participation that was developed by the International Association for Public Participation. And it really helps to define the role of the community in any public engagement process. On top, we can see the 5 different phases of this process, and for each of them, the goals, the promises we make to the public, and also a few example tools that we can use. One more thing I want to add before moving on to the case study is the concept of cultural tourism. All of that constitutes the cultural tourism offer is often, I'd say, a source of pride for locals, and involving them in the process of developing a destination really gives them a chance to preserve the identity, the culture, the values. In fact, as stated by the UNESCO, culture can be both tangible and intangible. And in this case, we are talking about skills and practices, knowledge that a community recognizes as a part of their cultural heritage, really. So all of which we've talked about up until now are the themes on which the project INCULTUM was developed. The INCULTUM project deals with the challenges and opportunity of cultural tourism with the aim of furthering sustainable social and cultural and also economic development, I'd say. It explored the full potential of marginal areas, especially when managed by local communities and stakeholders. There are 10 different pilot cases across Europe. All of them are different from one another, with different geographical locations and different socioeconomical contexts, and also different kinds of cultural heritage. Of course, there are different ways in which local community participation is put into practice in the INCULTUM pilot cases. For example, the local population has been often interviewed to evaluate the positive and also the negative impacts they believe tourism can bring onto the destination itself. Then, thanks especially to the role of the community manager, working in the pilot cases of the project, these communities have been stimulated to propose initiatives on how to develop the destination offer. Of course, every intervention and especially its impacts should be evaluated and talked about together with the community. Finally, some educational and training opportunities have been created for the local stakeholders to serve the different stages of the local tourism development, and hopefully to help them carry on with the work even after the project ends. All of these approaches are then analyzed by collecting the relevant data, of course, so that each pilot team can evaluate them and later present the data to the rest of the project partners. Now, the pilot case I've been working on in the context of the INCULTUM project is that of San Pellegrino in Alpe, which is a small rural village in Tuscany, more specifically in Garfagnana, which, as you can see on the map on the left, is on the top left corner of the region. It is a very remote village, the highest inhabited of all of the Apennines. And for this reason, it has, of course, many difficulties in terms of accessibility. Of course, the spring and summer months are the easiest for the visitor and tourist to get there. That being said, San Pellegrino has been chosen for its potential and its tourist offer. The village has a sanctuary, which has been for centuries a place where pilgrims and believers met to worship the two saints that the church hosts. In fact, it locates also two important pilgrimage routes. The village also has an ethnographic museum, which hosts one of the most important collections of objects related to the local culture and the traditions of central Italy. This place was actually the focal point, the main reason as to why San Pellegrino was chosen as a pilot case. The village and the museum really cradles of rural traditions specific to this area, things that it's important to preserve since they are fast disappearing. As I said, the village is quite small, but it has a few restaurants, cafes, hotels, and souvenir shops for tourists and visitors. And finally, all around the village, there are trails and routes for nature lovers and those who want to do both hiking trails and possibly visit, the cultural offer of the place. So as we've gathered, the tourist offer of the village is not that vast, but still there are a few options for the tourists. So as part of the research team working on this pilot, me and my colleagues organized a few meetings with the local stakeholders, more specifically those who run places related to the tourist offer. So we are talking about restaurants, hotels, and tour operators, and so on. Of course, the small community of people living in San Pellegrino was welcome as well. We are talking about a very small number, almost everybody came, nevertheless. There were, of course, a few goals we had in mind when planning the meetings to explain, for example, the INCULTUM project, first of all, and how it could help them to develop the tourist offer of the village, but also as a second objective to foster the communication, the trust, and the creation of ideas. And also to give them simple tools to evaluate the territory and to develop a new tourist offer, such as the SWOT analysis or simply studying best practices of the area. During the first of this meeting, we discussed a few topics. First of all, the importance of the participation in the process of developing the destination and its offer. We also did some trust-building activities in which those attending were encouraged to share their experiences and knowledge. And later on, we shared with them a tool to evaluate the destination. The long-term goal is to teach those who actively work in tourism a way in which to develop new ideas for the destination by themselves. I can say it was mainly a success since the participants were very active in many ways. There were many ideas and insights about the destination problems, but also suggestions on how to solve them, really. For example, locals gave suggestions on how to extend the seasonality of the destination, or on also how to attract more people. Some of them wanted to investigate nearby practices. Some of them proposed to create new promotional tools. Some tourism operatives included tips on how to promote the destination, for example, which actually were put into practice by the research team of which I'm part of. Promotional material has been created in both English and Italian for the village and also for the museum and all of the local events. These brochures, posters and flyers have been shared in the whole of the Fagnano and Lucchese area, so as to inform and to attract visitors. The local community has helped in both the contents or ideas for these materials, but also for the money raising and the printing process, of course. As suggested by locals, tickets of the ethnographic museum were also purchased, so as to give them for free to a few of their customers. In the hopes of course, raising interest in the museum. Then in the second meeting, some best practices were presented so as to give them ideas on what might work for the destination and what might not, and then present them the local and regional DMC and DMO, and the ways in which they can help them to better present their offer. The next steps will involve planning further meetings with the local community, which will take place this winter, during which the success obtained until then will be presented. This will give the community a purpose and also demonstrate the practical results obtained through the participative process, especially this summer. So we are at the end of this unit on the role of local community in the planning and promoting sustainable tourism destinations. This slide wraps up the three main points we've seen. We started with defining the collaborative approach in sustainable tourism. Then we had an insight on the role of local community in planning a destination. And finally, we saw a case study in San Pellegrino in Alpe, in Tuscany, where the involvement of local community is fostered and supported by a community manager. I hope you find interesting and useful the contents of this unit. But also remember that in case you would like to get more details and more info about the topics that we've covered, you can find a selection of further information materials on the INCULTUM platform, which is the official, of course, website of the project. Thank you for watching this video.